What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? Hopefully well. And I obviously can't hear you if you say you're doing fine, right? But you can comment, things like that. Really, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everyone has had a productive weekend. What I mean by productive is that you were able to, relax, spend some time with family. That is typically what we do around, Independence Day weekend, July 4th. Now, real quickly, I will share that I am not, and again, this is not the platform for, political views or opinions, things like that. You're more than welcome to have them. You're more than welcome to think, believe, and see your point of view the way you do. That's what we do as human beings. But before I get started on the video, I do want to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. And I also just want to share that, myself, I'm not feeling necessarily very patriotic today. I'm a little disappointed with some of the things I'm seeing going on in our country. And I'll just leave it at that. And so that's just my opinion. Why did I share that? I do my best to be authentic, to be transparent. So rather than just put up a front and, go along with, hey, happy holidays and whatnot. This Independence Day, July 4th, it represents something. And, it's a pivotal event in our country, in our country's history. And, like I said, it's not, I'm not feeling the, I'm not feeling the love today, as much as I should. And I'm a little disappointed with my country. I love my country. I appreciate my country. I appreciate the luxuries and comforts that have been afforded to me as an American. That I am forever grateful for. I am grateful for those who serve with honor in the armed forces, and for those who work hard to make the best decisions possible for us in this country as our leadership. With that being said, just like a parent to a child, right? I love my kids, and part of that love is correcting them when they're wrong, pointing things out that are not right, pointing things out that are not up to par with how they should be conducting themselves as my children. And so I still love them. Doesn't mean I hate them. Doesn't mean I've rejected them. That's part of the love, right? That's part of the love. And so going back to how I feel about our country, it's part of the love I have for my country. I love it. But I am not going to turn a blind eye to the things that I feel need to change and that I don't agree with. And so I'll leave it at that. Again, like I said, I'm glad you have, I hope you have a political view. I hope you have an opinion on things. I hope you have an opinion about a lot of things. But that being said, this is not the place for it, because here's the thing: with Living to Learn with this channel, we could be at odds on every single point of view, politically, religious, wise, whatever. But we could just be at odds. And guess what? I still want to help you. I'm still cheering for you. I still want to see the best for you, right? Because we can agree to disagree. And I think that's going to help us as well. That's also a good step in the right direction for our mindset, right? And I want to be an individual, not only as a coach, but as an individual, as a person. I want to be someone who is quick to listen first, to understand, right? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's another great quote from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, a book I'm always referring to, or have referred to many times in this channel. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Right? And I know this video is starting off a little bit different today, but these things are on my mind. These things are in front of me, and so just wanted to put that out there. Kind of venting a little, I guess, and so I appreciate you guys for listening. But anyway, with that said, let's get on to today's topic of fear setting. Now, you may have heard of goal setting. Okay, we set goals, right? And I highly encourage you to do that. I don't remember if I've talked too much about that in any previous videos. Perhaps I can do a series on goal setting because it's very important. But we're talking about fear setting, right? So the last few videos, there's been a theme, if you've been able to catch on, about just facing our fears and really overcoming that fear of failure. Why do we want to overcome the fear of failure? Why do we want to challenge ourselves to do that? Why do we want to take that on in the first place? Well, because there's a lot more to be gained when we can get past that fear of failure than there is to hold on to it or to give into it. Now, we're all human beings. We all have fear. We all have things that concern us, that bother us. So we're all in the same boat. Okay. And again, even though I'm doing these videos doesn't mean that I've arrived at some place or, I figured it out. I'm figuring it out. I'm learning. I'm living to learn. That's why I call my channel what I call it. But what is fear setting? How do you remove your fear of failure? First of all, how do we even do that? Right? Remove the fear of failure. Now, again, that might be a little misleading, because are we ever going to completely remove fear? No. But what the idea behind removing the fear of failure is really to just take the bite out of it, right? And fear setting is one of the ways that we can do that. So most of us, right? Many of us have this innate fear of failure, right? We believe if we let things go wrong, we'll be left without the means to carry on, right? I mean, and that sounds dramatic, but you know what? That's the way we're wired as human beings. Okay. And, I've done a little bit of research, and I encourage you to do a ton of research, as much as you want to, about how our mind works, about how the functions of our brain, and what fear really is, what it means, right? It's there for a reason. Okay. It's a survival mechanism that we have. Okay. Nobody should just be walking across the street without, using the crosswalk and just walking along. I mean, that's dangerous, right? Fear helps us avoid those situations, right? Like, hey, there's a bus coming. I probably shouldn't walk right now, right? Like, I should be very afraid of stepping out in front of a bus that's traveling at, 40 miles an hour down the highway or down the street, right? I should be afraid of stepping in front of that because I could get killed. Okay, so there's some understandable fears, but what happens is that fear mechanism, it doesn't necessarily know when to quiet down or when to be at full speed. It's just gonna kick in anytime we move in a direction or we start to do something that we don't recognize, that our mind doesn't recognize as good. It recognizes as something uncomfortable, possibly unsafe. Okay, and then that's when the fear kicks in. But here's the thing: the idea behind this is we want to be successful, right? Those of us that are in agreement with that. And again, I think I said in my last video, at the end of the day, we all have a decision to make. Not everybody is wanting to advance or move forward. Not everybody sees the value in that, right? Some of us are comfortable. We're good where we are. Hey, it is what it is. We all have a choice to make. But if you want to be successful, you have to understand real success actually requires failure. And so if we're going to be successful, we better address this fear of failure thing, right? Most successful people are not at all afraid of failing, and they're quite happy to put themselves out on a limb, taking regular risks. Now, before I go further, I'm going to repeat what I just said, and I want to emphasize something, okay? Most successful people are actually not at all afraid of failing and are quite happy to put themselves out on a limb, taking regular risks. The emphasis is on people. People. Not most successful superhumans. Not most successful, otherworldly beings. And again, we see people that are the top in their field. We see celebrities. We see people that they have millions in the crowd watching them, and we're in awe of these people, and we fail to remember, right? Speaking of failure, fail to remember that they're human, just like us. Right? They have bad moods. They have bad days. They get discouraged. They get excited. They get angry. They get sad. Just like anyone else, right? I mean, they have bad breath. It's just, they're people just like you and I. Well, what makes them successful? This is one of the things. They're not afraid. They're not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to take risks. Now, when we're talking about risks, we're talking about calculated risks, right? You're not just going to go out there and, you know what, I'm going to leave everything today and just, move to the other side of the world and just start living my life. Well, that's great. And I admire your spirit, but we got to do some planning. But at the same time, these are people that are not afraid of taking risks, right? This is how you achieve success, by not being afraid. So how do we remove that fear of failure? We're no longer afraid to fail. Here's one of the things we can try. Fear setting, right? Instead of goal setting, fear setting. Now, what's the idea behind that? The idea behind fear setting, right, is kind of like when goal setting, right? So let me transition over there. So when we write down goals, we're looking at stuff that we want to do, right? We're looking at it. We're able to focus. We see it on paper. We're reading it out loud. It becomes real. It becomes more available. It becomes something that we start to believe, you know what, I could actually do this, right? Fear setting is almost in that same type of response, right? But it's kind of going the opposite direction. So rather than seeing our fears as more intense or more real, what fear setting does is it actually takes the bite out of that fear a little bit. Kind of takes that sting away. It kind of brings it back to reality, because I don't know why we're built this way, but as human beings, we seem to blow things up in our mind, right? We seem to just, like, especially when it's something, that we're afraid of. It seems to just echo loud. It's like our mind's got a bullhorn and it's screaming, stay away, don't do that, And so it becomes overwhelming. But some of those fears, I mean, we come to find out when we start writing it down, right? So the general idea is to set your fears in the same way that you would normally set your goals, okay? What you do is you make those abstract fears, those vague fears, into things that are more concrete and real. So it goes from your mind, which is making it out to be this monster, right? We start to write it down. Okay. And we realize, like, you know what? It's actually not as bad as I thought it was. Okay. So here's an idea, right? So let's say we're planning on trying something new. Here's what we want to do. Okay. And again, this is an idea. Write down everything that could go wrong and why you're afraid of it. Now, some of you are already like, Josh, you lost me there, man. You lost me. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to look at it. It seems like it would not. It seems like it would be a little, like that would be kind of hurting us more, right? Like that would be making it worse, so writing it down. But in reality, what it can do is it can help us face it, right? It can help us. It can help us really, like, see it as what it really is, right? And a lot of times it's not going to be as intense as it was in our mind. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to write down everything that could go wrong and why you're afraid of it. Next, you're going to write down all the ways you might deal with those things if it went wrong, right? Worst case scenario, what would I do? Right? Again, a plan. Just like we set goals, right? You set a goal, but then you got to come with a plan of action. How am I going to achieve that goal? Right? Well, I want to read 300 books by next year. Cool. You know what you're going to have to do, right? You're going to have to read some books. I mean, it's obvious, right? I mean, but most of us, we're like, oh man, I want to do this, this, and this. But we have no plan of attack. We have no strategy. And we wonder why we don't accomplish what we set out to accomplish. It's not because you're not capable. It's not because I don't have the ability. We have it. I just told you, successful people. You're a person. I'm a person. We have it within us just like they do. Just like those people we admire, we've got the same opportunity. We've got the same skill set. We've got the same unique set of abilities as they do. So what's the difference? Right? What's different about it? Okay? A plan. Not afraid to fail. This is helping us. We're writing things down. Okay, what am I going to do if the worst does happen? How would I deal with that? How would I go about that? We'll write down how likely each of those things is to go wrong in the first place. Right? So we're writing down everything that could go wrong. Okay? So let's say we're going to try something new. Let's write down everything that could go wrong and why we're afraid of it. Put it on paper. Next, we're going to write down all the ways we might deal with those things going wrong if they were to happen. So if the worst does happen, what would I do? How would I respond? And then, how likely is each of those things, are each of those things, how likely will they go wrong in the first place? Do you see what we're doing here? We're taking that fear, we're dissecting it, and we're seeing, hey, is this really as terrifying as it sounds in my mind? Once I really break it down, once I deal with it, once I kind of sift through it, right? How bad is it? And on the face of it, right, this might sound like it's going to make things worse, but it's actually the opposite, right? That's because when you write down your fears and you make them real, it often, again, it takes away that bite, takes away that sting. Because now you see, you know what, this is obviously, you know, the worst possible outcome. That's not what we want to see. That's not a good place. But it's also not like an inescapable place. Right? Like, hey, if this actually does happen, let's say the worst happens, I can actually figure out some ways to deal with it. Like, I could actually figure out how to kind of, you know, move around and get back on my feet or whatnot. Like, it's not as bad as my mind is telling me it is. But see, because my brain is trying to keep me safe, right? My mind's trying to keep me safe, and rightfully so. Thank you, brain. Thank you, mind. Right? Thank you for not, you know, for letting me know the difference between walking off the curb and walking off the Grand Canyon. Right? I mean, you better know that difference, right? Or it's, you know, or farewell. Right? I mean, thank you for working that way, mind. But again, the mind doesn't distinguish. It doesn't, the mind doesn't, how do I say this? It doesn't discriminate any situation. It tells you, be afraid of walking up the Grand Canyon, but then it also tells you, be afraid to start a business. Be afraid to go back to school. Be afraid to do something different. And see, this is where you and I have to take control, and we have to say, wait a minute. Let me find out if this is a real fear, if this is something really, if it's really that serious, or if it's just, you know, my brain acting out of instinct and giving me its first reaction is to be afraid, right? And this is what successful people have been able to do. And this is what you and I are actually able to do as well. And I hope this is getting you excited. It gets me excited because I found myself in a place I never thought I'd be in. And that tells me that I can find myself in more places I never saw myself in before, because I can overcome this fear of failure. I don't have to be afraid to try. I don't have to be afraid to try. And for those of you listening, and again, forgive me if I'm not addressing this as I should for those who are listening to this as a podcast, because it is now, it's a YouTube video, but it's also, the audio is also released as a podcast on Spotify. So for those of you who are listening to my words and can't see me, I'm sorry if I'm not sounding like I'm addressing you, but listen to what I'm saying here. Normally our fears are somewhat unfounded. It's crazy. But you and I see what we've kind of scripted ourselves and programmed ourselves to do is just kind of take it. We just take it and run with it. Like, oh, I'm afraid. Okay, never mind. Forget that. Forget trying that. Forget trying to do that. You know, it's not going to happen. No. Wait a minute. Maybe that's an unfounded fear. So this is where fear setting comes in, right? Take that fear, write it down. Write down the worst case scenarios. Write down what would I do if the worst case scenario happens? How likely is that going to happen? And let me dissect it. Let me look at it. And I'm telling you, it's going to change how we address fear. It's going to change how we respond to fear moving forward. Fear setting allows us to see that, and as a result, it makes things a lot less scary. That's really all it is. Is it going to be scary? Sure. Does it have to be does it have to be scary to the point where it freezes you in your tracks? Probably not. But again, if we let it play in our mind and we just decide that, well, that's just, you know, it's just something I can't do, and I won't, then so be it. It's just going to continue to play. But if we hit the pause button and we say, wait a minute, time out. I really want to be an entrepreneur. I really want to work for myself. I have something of value. I want to contribute. I want to give that to the greater community at large. I feel like I can influence people to do better and to think better and to help them improve themselves, to help them see themselves in a different light. But I've never done it before. There's not a lot of people that I know who have done it. And so I'm intimidated. But you know what I'm going to do with that intimidation? I'm going to write it down. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to come up with a plan to address all possible outcomes. And even those I might not be ready for. And you know what? What we're going to find out when we do that, we're going to find out that it's actually not as scary as we thought it was. It's actually not as impossible as we thought it was. We are too capable. We are too incredible. We are too unique to not at least attempt to fight back against this fear of failure. We shouldn't be afraid to fail. What we should be afraid of, what we should really be afraid of, is staying the same, especially if we're not satisfied. If you're okay with where you're at, man, I'm the first one to congratulate you. If you're content, congratulations. I'm not here to hate on you. I'm not here to make anybody see things the way I see it. I'm not content. I'm not satisfied. I want more out of this life. And I want to become the most excellent version of myself possible in all areas of my life. And I'm going to push myself toward that. And as a coach, I want to be able to offer that to others as well. Help others see it. Discover their purpose. My ideal client will be the man who has a family, has a job. He might not necessarily like his job. And again, I'll coach women as well. But as a man, I'm saying that, and anybody who does, even if you're non-binary, if you don't identify with any gender, I'm here for you. I'm just giving you an example. My ideal client is someone who is a man like, and again, this is like myself, right? I'm looking at myself in the mirror as my ideal client. Somebody who has a family, who may be in a job that they're not crazy about, but it pays the bills. But someone who has a dream, someone who dreams of doing something else, dreams of doing something that they want to do, something that they're passionate about, but feels stuck, but is afraid. And I know the fear. See, I know it because I deal with it and I battle it. I've had to fight again. I've had to fight it to get to this point. It took me a long time to get where I'm at now. And I'm not stopping now. There's more to do. But this is what I'm here for. This is why my channel exists. This is why I said earlier, I don't care, not that I don't care, but your political views, all that, whatever. If you think there's something I can help you with, let me help you. If you take something from these videos that's going to help you improve, let it be. Your sexual orientation, your gender, your whatever your ideologies, that doesn't have any effect here in this regard. All are welcomed here. And I hope you feel welcomed. Because I'm here to help. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to knock anybody. I want to help. So going back to what we talked about, fear setting. Let's try it. Write it down. Write down the worst case scenarios. Write down what you'll do if you end up in the worst case scenario. Write down how likely you are to end up in the worst case scenario. And think about it. And I promise you, it won't be as bad as you thought. And you'll actually get some satisfaction in knowing that, you know what, I'm actually smarter than I thought. I can figure some things out. We don't give ourselves enough credit sometimes, people. We really don't. We're brilliant. We're intelligent. We've got a lot to offer. You have a lot to offer. You have a valuable part in this. Understand that. I don't even know who's watching this, and I'm telling you this because it doesn't matter who's watching this. If you're a person and you're alive and you're breathing and you can hear me or you can see me or both, I'm talking to you. So let's do this. Okay? Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your week. And again, for those who have subscribed, for those who watch, for those who share, for those who comment, for those who donate, right? You can get my donation links in the description or on the front of my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all. Have a good one.